Heart the Lover by Lily King. The narrative unfolds as a profound, retrospective reflection from Casey, an author affectionately known to her college friends as Jordan, directed at Yash, the man who irrevocably shaped the trajectory of her youth. During her senior year of college in the 1980s, Casey reads a neon orange, slightly parodic essay in her English class that catches the attention of two brilliant, inseparable students in the front row. The first is Sam Gallagher, a copper-haired, intensely serious and literal young man burdened by a heavy devout Baptist conscience. The second is his best friend, Yash Thakkar, a fiercely intelligent, witty Indian-American student with a signature looping cowlick of black hair and a scarred lip. Sam awkwardly but persistently courts Casey, bringing her into the exclusive, book-lined world of the Breach House, a sprawling home belonging to the formidable Professor Gastrell, where Sam and Yash live rent-free. There, Casey is introduced to their eccentric circle, including Ivan, a flamboyant, ginger-curled literature major prone to dramatic outbursts about James Joyce. The group spends their evenings engaging in fierce intellectual debates and playing a convoluted, chaotic card game called Sir Hinkum Funnibuster, where players must politely request fictional family members from one another, such as the King of Hearts, Heart the Lover. Casey's romantic relationship with Sam is suffocated by his rigid morality. Plagued by guilt over having previously compromised his ex-girlfriend's religious vows, Sam refuses to have actual sex with Casey, trapping them in a frustrating cycle of intense physical intimacy that always stops short. Their fundamental incompatibility comes to a head during a disastrous weekend trip to visit Sam's conservative parents in Atlanta. The visit is riddled with misunderstandings, leading Sam to coldly write Casey off, cruelly noting that his father believes she sounds like the kind of girl a man divorces. Following their bitter breakup, Sam travels to Europe for the summer, leaving Casey alone in their college town. It is during this quiet summer that Casey truly connects with Yash. Beneath Yash's quick-witted, cynical exterior lies a deep vulnerability. He reveals that he secretly attended the funeral of Casey's murdered summer roommate, Syra, watching over Casey from afar. Riding around in his mother's beat-up Chevy Nova, their platonic bond deepens during a dinner date at a rural farmhouse restaurant. They fiercely debate the nature of humanity. Yash argues that human nature is static and inherently tragic, while Casey passionately defends the existence of moral progress and hope. That night, dancing at an outdoor bar, the unspoken tension between them shatters, and they transition from best friends to deeply passionate lovers. They spend a euphoric, secretive summer hidden away in Casey's room, reading Proust, cooking together, and playfully calling each other Hink as a nod to their old card game. When Sam finally returns from Europe and discovers their betrayal, the revelation destroys the trio. Sam issues a furious ultimatum, and Yash, agonizingly torn between his oldest friend and the woman he loves, ultimately chooses Casey. Determined to become a writer, Casey moves to Paris to work as an au pair for a French woman named Leah, eagerly awaiting the day Yash will save enough money to join her. They sustain their profound connection through thick letters penned on yellow legal paper. When Yash finally visits in August, they share a transcendent trip to the Swiss Alps. They hike through alpine meadows, swim naked in glacial pools, and make love to the distant sound of cowbells. However, the crushing reality of impending adulthood and financial instability terrifies Yash. Gripped by a fear of failure and unwilling to embrace the struggling artist lifestyle, Yash abandons their shared dream of living in Paris. Instead, he retreats to Tennessee to work for his overbearing father's whiskey distribution business, promising to save up and meet Casey in New York later that year. Left stranded and isolated in France, Casey discovers she is pregnant. Desperate, she tries repeatedly to reach Yash, but his father stonewalls her calls. Feeling entirely abandoned, Casey travels to her mother's home in Phoenix. With her mother's support, she quietly carries the child to term and places her newborn baby girl, whom she secretly names Daisy, with a loving adoptive couple. She never tells Yash. When January arrives and they are finally meant to reunite at the airport in New York, Yash never shows up. Overwhelmed by panic and guilt, he is driven to Atlanta to repair his relationship with Sam instead, leaving Casey utterly devastated. 21 years pass. Casey is now a published novelist living in a chaotic, joyful home in Maine with her grounded, supportive husband Silas and their two young sons, the artistic Harry and the fearless Jack. Yash, having recently survived a bout of cancer, unexpectedly visits them on a road trip. The reunion is heavily laced with unspoken history and lingering tension. Yash effortlessly charms her children, climbing pine trees with them and flawlessly recalling the complex rules of Sir Hincombe Funibuster to make them laugh. Yet, the emotional distance between him and Casey remains vast. Before driving away, Yash leaves a worn paperback behind for Casey. Tucked inside is a handwritten quote from Louis Ferdinand Céline, lamenting a narrator's failure to kiss his love properly when he had the chance, always foolishly saving his tenderness for a sublime future that never arrived. It is Yash's quiet, devastating apology for his youthful cowardice. Years later, the fabric of Casey's life is unraveling. Her 12-year-old son, Jack, is battling recurrent brain tumors, suffering from agonizing seizures that strike without warning. As the family anxiously awaits a highly dangerous brainstem surgery in Houston, Casey receives a sudden text from Sam. Yash's cancer has returned aggressively, and he is dying. Encouraged by her husband, Casey reluctantly leaves her sick child and flies to the hospital in Atlanta. She arrives to find Yash's hospital room packed with his old friends, uncles, and colleagues, the atmosphere disguised as a lively viewing party for a college basketball game to mask the impending tragedy. Yash is frail, his chest swollen from subcutaneous emphysema and his breathing tethered to an oxygen mask, yet his face illuminates the moment Casey walks in. In the corner sits Sam, who has tirelessly slept on a cot at the foot of Yash's bed for a week, fetching coffee and wiping down trays. Sam has fully dedicated himself to Yash's final days, repaying the absolute loyalty Yash showed him during his own past existential crises. In the sterile, grief-stricken air of the hospital, all of Casey and Sam's old resentments dissolve into mutual compassion. When Yash suffers a terrifying bout of breath panic in the evening, Sam gently asks Casey to sing to him. She sings a long, sorrowful Bob Dylan ballad they loved in their youth, her voice serving as an anchor that calms Yash's violently trembling body. The next morning, when the room finally clears and they are left alone, Casey lowers the bed rail, leans close to Yash's face, and reveals her 27-year-old secret. She tells him the entire story of her pregnancy, her time in Phoenix, and the existence of their daughter, Daisy. Rather than anger, Yash is overcome with profound gratitude. Weeping beneath his oxygen mask, he finds an immense, settling peace in knowing that a piece of him will survive his death. He begs Casey to ensure Daisy knows that he is always rooting for her. As they hold hands and cry together, Casey experiences a deeply mystical moment, the undeniable, comforting grip of her own late mother's palm superimposed over Yash's frail fingers, offering a silent blessing from beyond. Casey is eventually forced to say a final goodbye, as she must fly to Houston for Jack's life-threatening surgery. She kisses Yash's hand, whispering that she has loved him her entire life. Navigating the disorienting, fluorescent corridors of the airport that night, her phone buzzes with a final text from Sam confirming that Yash has died. Overwhelmed by the crushing weight of grief and the surreal, terrifying mechanics of moving forward, Casey suffers a moment of paralysis, unable to step onto a descending escalator. When she finally forces herself to step down, she finds Silas unexpectedly waiting for her at the bottom. He catches her as she collapses into his winter coat, sobbing uncontrollably. Later that night, in the dark quiet of their hotel room, Casey listens to the steady breathing of her two sleeping boys. Remembering a philosophical debate about how only the present moment truly exists, she presses herself close to her husband. Amidst the agonizing losses of the past and the terrifying uncertainties of her son's future, Casey fully embraces the beautiful, fragile present, recognizing that this fleeting moment with her family is the only eternity that matters.